Camouflage and Cover-Ups is brought to you by the Coming Home Well Network and Clear Right Productions. We cover unusual topics about government cover-ups, military, murders, conspiracies, and maybe even aliens. Welcome to Camouflage and Cover-Ups with Jenn and Paige.
Welcome to Camouflage and Cover-Ups.
Wow, that should be our theme song.
I'm going to make that my ringtone.
We were just talking about those amazing noises that people do that just annoy the crap out of you, like smacking.
Oh, yeah, the mouth smacking. Yeah, well, before we talk about that, I'm Jen.
And I'm Paige.
And we're your hosts.
Welcome.
Ho, you can't have a host without ho.
Or ho, 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 since it's Christmas.
Christmas-ish. Well, this will come out in January, so.
Jen's rocking I thought it said AC/DC.
So my shirt looks like AC/DC, but it's actually a HOCO, which is something new. I'm from the 70s.
What's HOCO?
You know, homecoming. Yeah, so your kids aren't old enough yet to have a HOCO.
We're going to talk about the new kid slang, but I was informed, it's in the story, but I was informed by a friend who heard it from an intern that she works with, that even emojis have changed. Like thumbs up is sarcastic now.
Yeah.
What?
You know what? I don't care because I only text people my same age.
Yeah. Well, but your kids, like, are they, because mine are using language that's not, well,
I text them in full sentences with words and commas.
Does it get confusing for them?
No, they like it.
Okay, well, that's good.
And they text me back with thanks, THANXX. And I'm like, I don't know why you have a 72 in English. It's strange.
Oh, it's shocking.
Yeah, well, what are we doing today? What are we covering? Is anybody getting murdered? I'm so excited.
Yeah, a lot of people are getting murdered. This is more along the lines of a government, not even a really cover-up, just government murder.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
So I've got two.
I hear that they don't murder people, but I could be wrong.
They didn't do the murdering. They were tracking the murderer, but I've got two alternate titles. You tell me which one you like best.
Okay.
It's either the FBI, a cabin in Montana, and 0 bars of soap.
I do like that.
Yeah. Or Teddy and his boom boom boxes.
I like the soap one.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go with that one.
It makes less sense.
So if you haven't guessed already, today's guest, Bachelor number 1, is Ted Kaczynski.
Oh, gross.
I know, the Unabomber. I don't know why I am so enthralled with the whole story behind the Unabomber, but I cannot get enough information on it.
Mostly because he lived in a cabin in the woods. Yeah. Alone.
Yeah.
With nails.
Ooh.
So weird.
So if y'all have not seen the picture of the FBI dragging him out of his cabin, it's worth a look-see. He looks like Sasquatch.
He probably smelled like Sasquatch, too.
It's Sasquatch dick.
Yeah, he was missing some soap bars for sure.
Yeah, so that's where the original title came from. We'll stick with that. But he is also known as the Unabomber. Do you know how they came up with Unabomber?
Well, a lot of people think that it's uni, but it's really university bomber.
Yeah, it's university and airlines, so Unabomber.
We are here to clear the air with some facts, probably.
I know everybody's just going to be filling our social media.
They're like, what?
Thank you for clarifying that.
I thought it was just the one bomb.
No.
It was a whole university?
Yeah.
What?
Unabomber. And I also like to call him the man with his cock in a box. Boom boom boxes in the woods.
He had a cock in a box?
I don't know. He had to be doing something, right?
How would one see that?
He was...
it was inside the box.
True. And if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it...
Does anyone care?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he's also one of the only people to make aviators look bad.
Well...
You disagree?
I'm going to disagree with that, but we'll go with it for this story.
Okay, that's fair. So he was an insanely... Why can I not say that?
I believe in you.
Insanely intelligent mathematician.
Yeah.
and a domestic terrorist.
Yep.
So that's what brings him to our
That's
story
why
today.
I don't want to be smart. Because I don't want to be a terrorist.
What God giveth, God taketh away.
Yep.
I have my oldest brother-in-law, and I love my brother-in-laws like they're my brothers. I've known them since I was 17. But he's so smart that he, like, when he's talking to you, sometimes he's not listening because he's thinking of a million other things.
Yeah, like how to solve like the theory of relativity or something.
Yeah, it's probably something to do with computers.
Yeah.
I'm like, right here.
Yeah.
But he's super smart.
I'm always thinking, did I dry those clothes or are they still wet in the dryer?
Did I leave my hair straightener on?
Shit.
Are the dogs going to eat it? Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll talk about what dogs have eaten later.
Great.
Sorry, I'm a little
Right
all
in if
over
your
the
dog
place.
is eating something.
Yeah, mine ate a plastic water pitcher, so I'm just waiting for blood all
The
over
results.
my carpet. Yeah. So I picked old Teddy because for whatever reason, I just can't get enough information.
Just can't get enough. Name
just
that.
can't get
Name
enough.
that band. Name that band. Just can't get enough.
I don't know. I
It's
roller
Depeche
skated.
Mode. Come on.
Oh,
90s.
okay. See?
I want to see
You
them in
are-
concert. Go on.
You are older
So you
than
just
me.
can't get enough. Go ahead.
So I think the other interesting part of this is how it baffled the law enforcement community and the FBI for so long. But you have to remember, this is going to take us way back. It's going to be in the 70s and the 80s, so we'll talk about some of the things that made it difficult to track this guy down.
There's so many things.
So many things. I also love how the FBI began exploring some of that woo-woo science,
Oh, yeah.
now commonly known as criminal profiling.
/ LSD.
Yeah, it sort of feels like explaining gravity to somebody. Like, why would you not profile a criminal? And that helps. Anyway, they thought it was just crazy talk back then. So,
Well, but they were back then where they weren't really communicating all of their thoughts together because this is my here space and you don't get to come into it, you FBI guy. You know, it was like the local police were like, mine.
mines
Don't let a dead body get in the way of your pride now.
or several.
Or several.
So when you, just for clarification, when you see a case that has the ATF, the FBI, CIA,
All the letters.
I
Yeah.
mean, when you get all the acronyms together, it must be, how do you sort out the work? I would think, I mean, the FBI drove this one, but there were, like, the U.S. Postal Service has a commission that was involved in the search.
Well, it makes sense because he was sending stuff through the mail.
Yeah,
So
but
it's,
the ATF,
well, I mean, that's,
weapons. Yeah, I guess that makes
it's,
sense.
you know, Ted was doing it up.
Yeah.
I mean, he was going over state lines. He was air traffic. He was going through the mail. He was walking it in himself. I mean,
Maybe I'm too dumb to tell this story.
he's like, how many letter agencies can I bring in on this?
Let's make some new ones.
Yeah.
So, but because this is a comedy show and what he did was horrible, we are going to dive in, not so much the chronological story, which we'll tell, but more around some of what made Ted Ted.
What made him Ted?
Good question, Jen. So we're going to go back a few decades.
Oh,
1942.
that's way before I was born.
Yeah, way, like,
At least 10 years.
yeah, at least I'm not mathing it, but so Theodore John Kaczynski, and that's how
I want to
it's-
say Krasinski,
I know, it's so hard. I had to like phonetically spell it out, and then
too. I have to do that too.
Kaczynski.
Kaczynski.
Yeah, exactly.
Not Krasinski from The Office.
Although
That's a different
I love
guy.
him. Married to Emily Blunt, he's
Oh,
great.
the best.
So Teddy was born on May 22nd, 1942 in Evergreen Park, Illinois. And Evergreen Park is just outside of Chicago. So if you're jumping on the major highway, it's about 35 minutes south. But a little known fact, and because I'm in the government industry, Evergreen Park is actually a village. We don't have villages here in Texas.
Are there idiots in it?
Yeah. Oh, every village has an idiot. It's one of their rules.
Oh, okay. I was just checking.
Teddy was not the idiot. He was the weirdo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
So, over 100 years ago, Evergreen Park was trying to get its emancipation from Chicago, like all of the smaller communities. Even now today, it still only has about 19,000 residents.
Oh, that's pretty small.
Yeah, small community.
That's a small town.
Yeah, everybody knew Ted.
Yeah.
Like if he's going to be the weird kid at school and there are 19,000 people that you go to school with, not even that many because that's the whole population. You know who this kid is.
Well, he's the kid that, when we used to have books
what?
at school.
Oh, yeah,
and then we wrapped the books with shopping bags, right?
That way you could write. We did like a newspaper type thing so you could write on them.
Yeah, we would write on. Well, the things that they would write on those was like a drawing of Ted. Like with an arrow that says like weird guy, weirdo, nutso.
That's the one.
And whatever other 50s and 60s words they used.
Lame-o. Evergreen Park is also known for the village of churches because it's got over 13 different religions, church on every town.
See, that's what happened to him.
Yeah, church on every town.
He's like,
church
Jesus
on every
Christ,
corner.
what is happening right now?
But you know how it is. Sometimes you go to a city and it's like gun store, liquor store, gun store. Then you go to these villages and there's a church for every flavor. So that's where Ted grew up. Ted had a younger brother named David. Sorry, I missed the page. I'm
going to leave that in there.
Thanks. So, Ted was born to a working class Polish family.
Oh, okay.
They weren't immigrants, but they were still very Polish. The whole community was pretty Polish. I don't think that makes a big difference, but
except for Polak jokes.
Yeah. Oh, those are the best. Do you have any?
I don't have any.
Okay, we need
because I'm not racist like you, Paige.
I need to have something in my repertoire. So he had one younger brother named David, and David actually became famous in his own right, which we'll talk about a little later. But growing up, Ted is what today we would call on the spectrum.
Yeah.
He was incredibly smart, just to kind of give you an idea of how smart this kid was.
How smart was he?
He had an IQ of 170.
I'm never going to say that sentence about myself.
No,
Mine's like 70.
Mine too. Just to kind of give you a comparison, Elon Musk, 160. Albert Einstein, 160.
So lame.
Jeff Bezos, the big dummy, at 145. Idiots. So Ted was so smart. Oh, good thing I included this in my notes. Ted was so smart that I'm too dumb to understand how smart he was. Which I covered on page 2, actually, on my own. But just like skinny girls with no boobs or short guys with big wah-wahs.
A wah-wah?
What God gives, God taketh away.
Yeah, that's right.
So as a little baby Unabomber, when Ted was taken to the hospital, when he was an infant, he was probably 1. His mom took him to the hospital because he had hives and rashes all over his body. And they actually isolated him for 2 or 3 months as a baby.
That's too long.
It's too long.
Yeah.
But the doctors tried to determine what was going on with him. But I guess that was the protocol back in the 40s, like babies sick with hives.
There was what was going on back in the 40s?
Polio?
We needed to be inoculated for a lot of things. That now California is like, we don't need to vaccinate.
For anything.
It's fine that my kids and all their friends have it.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, now everybody's coming back with malaria. Like, when was the last time you heard malaria?
Yeah, last week.
Oh, okay. Well, so he was isolated from his family. Some say, and I strongly disagree, that this is what caused him to be socially whatever.
Yeah, but those are critical bonding times.
I was adopted. I went from being dropped off at the hospital.
Totally fine.
I'm fine, other than the dead bodies in the backyard. I'm fine.
But your brother, he really took it.
Yeah, I did punch him in the nose on the way out of the womb.
Yeah.
So I don't think it helped, but I think Ted was probably undiagnosed with
everything.
Asperger's, paranoid schizophrenia, all these things that come up later in his life. But they didn't diagnose kids. All they diagnosed them with was hyperactivity, and
Yeah,
they would give
you're
them
just
Ritalin.
weird.
Yeah, you were just
well,
a weird kid.
even when I was born in 75, and even in the 80s and 90s, you're just still that weird kid that takes Ritalin.
Yeah.
So when my kids need to go on Ritalin recently, like, I'm like, I don't mean to be like that person, but that's just what the weird kids take.
Yeah.
And the doctor's like, yeah, I know. I get it. I'm your age. Like,
Yeah.
but now, like, everybody's on it. And now we have a shortage because everybody's on it.
But didn't you feel like when you were growing up, you knew which kids were taking Ritalin? And it was like, it had to be really bad. You were like, oh, that makes sense.
Well, I was definitely not diagnosed ever. And I probably should have been.
Yeah, I think, and for women, it shows up differently. We could do a whole podcast on attention deficit. I think you and I qualify for everything.
Well, it's mainly because we're just fucking tired.
Yeah, it could be that too.
I can't
be a drug for that,
I can't hear you anymore because I haven't slept in 16 days.
16 years. So as Ted got older, elementary school was... it wasn't a great time for Ted. He was considered a loner and a weirdo. His parents would encourage him to go outside and play. He was a prolific writer and reader, so he just sat in his room and read.
Yeah, so he wrote his first novel when he's 6.
Yeah, the manifesto began at 6 years old. But quite frankly, this sounds a lot like self-induced COVID isolation.
Yeah, he's like, I can't wait for COVID. I can see it in the future. It's coming.
Yeah, well, I've got COVID babies, so not babies, but little ones, so we'll see what it does to their psyche. Ted was also said to be incredibly shy, so, what's better for a genius kid with 0 social skills? Let's just bump him up a few grades in school.
Oh, yeah, that's the best way.
That way the big kids can remind him how weird he is.
Yeah, mom and dad fail.
Yeah. So Ted skipped 2 grades growing up. He went from 5th directly into 7th.
Oh, that is a bad idea.
Any parent out there, I've got a 6th grader. I know how critical going from 5th to 7th is. It's like you had a child and then they are a full-blown adult.
Yeah. I mean, our elementary has kindergarten through 6th, which I was just saying the other day, like, that is not a good plan.
Yeah.
6th graders should be with 7th and 8th graders because they're like little toddler, like, all right, guys, we're going to go to the potty. Everybody hold hands.
Yeah.
Hey, bro, what's up? I got a mustache this week.
My daughter had a DJ at her Christmas party.
Yeah.
They were doing
different.
Go Landon, like a dance party.
Yeah. And the kindergartners are like picking their nose. And
yeah. Where's my reindeer cookie? So that's...
I'd be traumatized too.
Yeah. Ted also finished high school really early. He entered college at 16.
He finished in 8th grade.
Yeah, he finished 8th grade, and they're like, that's all we can teach you.
Yeah. You already know everything. You're like, teaching the teacher is really annoying. Just go.
Yeah. Oh, could you imagine having a kid like this if you were a teacher in your class? You're like, shut up, Ted.
Yeah, shut up, Ted.
I would have him banging erasers or whatever we used to do when we got done early. Put some elbow grease into it.
Stop making me look stupid.
Yeah. So he went to college at 16, but not just any college. Guess where he went?
Harvard.
Ted's only friends growing up, I say friends, it's not even plural. His only friend was his little brother, David.
Well.
But David always had a soft spot for Ted. In interviews.
Because they were the same age.
Yeah, I mean, David's really smart as well. Now, he did not get accepted into Harvard. He didn't finish school early like Ted, but he just had a soft spot for his brother. So when it came to turning him in or even recognizing that he could be capable of this, David's like, no, man, not Ted. Ted's great. Yeah. So one of the things that they did enjoy doing when they were growing up is their dad would take them camping every weekend. There was this forest outside of Chicago. They would live off the land. But this is where both of the boys really fell in love with nature. And David tells the U.S. News years later, he said, some of the happiest experiences of my life were these with Ted. Outdoors, a release from confinement of various kinds. Growing up, I never doubted my brother's fundamental loyalty and love, or felt in the slightest insecurity in his presence. So he knew deep down that something was different about Ted, but he just remembers him so fondly from childhood.
It was strange when he was collecting nails, though.
Yeah.
Why do you have all those nails in that box?
Yeah.
I love you.
I love you, Ted. You're
I love you no
greatest.
matter what.
When he goes off to Harvard, he's... yeah. So he said... David said, when we were young, friends and family would turn up at our house unannounced. And my feeling was, oh, good, here's Uncle Stanley or our friend Ralph. But Ted's reaction was just the opposite. He saw it as an incursion. He saw it as a curse into his world and almost in panic would run upstairs to the attic and stay there the entire time the guests came over. And I remember thinking, why does he have this aversion to people?
Why does he run away from Uncle Ralph?
Well, maybe Uncle Ralph.
Maybe Uncle Ralph something.
Yeah, it's,
Run away.
Why does he wear Pac-Man underwear? I don't know. So Ted's family, all in all, other than Ted, they were really normal. His parents were Theodore and Wanda, and they were married and loving. David loved his parents. They had a really idealistic middle-class American lifestyle.
Yeah, sometimes kids are just busted.
Yeah. But Ted always had an issue with his parents. And David remembers, he describes it as Ted having an attacking manner and extremely egotistical towards his parents. He said it always troubled
he's smarter
me.
than them. He's like, you guys are fucking idiots.
So one time he found a note that Ted had written to one of his parents, and it said, I can't wait until you die so I could spit on your corpse. Damn.
I'm going to drink your
blood.
Drink your ashes for breakfast.
Stir them in my coffee.
Overnight oats. I got that topped. Overnight ashes.
Gritty. So he said he was always just angry with his parents. And Ted's mom was interviewed a few times, and she thinks it's because of the isolation as a baby that he just never connected with him. But David said, he goes, I remember as an adolescent that Ted saw his mom coming with a hot plate of food, and he held the chair open for her, and she was, they were all sort of surprised because that wasn't like Ted. Well, she sits down with a hot plate. He pulls the chair out. The hot food falls all over her. She falls on the floor, and he's like, Ted was just sitting in his chair laughing his butt off.
That doesn't sound like a psychopath.
No. But again, mental health still isn't handled well, at least in America, but certainly not back then.
Just boys being boys.
Just those crazy rascals.
Hot scalding pasta all over mom.
Remember that third-degree burn?
Remember that Thanksgiving we had where you poured hot water all over mom?
Good times.
We should make a Christmas ornament reminding ourselves of that.
Yeah, we should. Maybe we'll reenact, those new, old family photos that kids reenact for their parents. Oh, this is when mom got her face burned.
There was, what was there, 20 boils? 21?
Yeah, just a few lesions now. So, there were signs. No one knew what he would become. But there were certainly signs.
Well, no one was saying what the fuck back then.
Yeah, everybody minded their business back then,
They minded their business. Just put some butter on it.
Yeah, I see Ted back there with a squirrel that he's gnawing on. Is that new?
He's got fur in his tooth.
Yeah.
It's kind of gross.
Nobody asks questions.
No.
Mind your own business.
Mind your business.
Except have you ever had a different adult outside of your parents spank you?
No.
Oh,
well, there's teachers that did that, but I never got spanked because I was a good girl and they weren't looking.
I was just good at covering it up.
Cover up the evidence.
So we're going to move into the Harvard years, and that takes us to about 1958. And remember, again, Ted is 16. He's a freshman at Harvard University. I can't say it now. Harvard.
Pakyakat the Harvard Yard.
Pakyakat the Harvard Yard.
Harvard. Yeah.
Yes.
Harvard.
See, she does it 10 times better one of these days. I'm sure Ted was thinking, finally, I'll be surrounded by people that aren't idiots.
They're going to be 20 years older than me, but who cares?
That's fine. I don't have chest hair yet.
I don't have
at least they're not morons. But that didn't happen.
Yeah.
You know you've got to be a major weirdo to be a weirdo at Harvard.
You've got to be like a wicked weirdo.
Wicked weirdo. Oh, yeah. He was wicked smart, but he was just, yeah. So Ted was weird, even for Harvard. And during his sophomore year, it just got worse. In 1959, Ted was chosen to participate in a psychological experiment that would last. The experiment itself lasted 3 years, and then the aftermath lasted the rest of his life.
Yeah.
So the experiment that he participated in involved psychological torment and humiliation, and it was led by a Harvard psychologist, Henry Murray. And the goal was really to see how psychic destruction by humiliating undergrads would affect the participants' mental state. So they were just sitting across from each other. They asked the participants to write an essay about a hardcore belief that they had, or several beliefs, which is right up Ted's alley. He loves writing these scathing reviews on things that he believes are right or wrong.
Despite his brain not being developed for another 10 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. His plates probably aren't even fully
he's
closed.
got a soft spot still up there.
Oh, his head still smells like a baby. But they had the participants on the other side, so people part of the study would read through these essays, and they called them anonymous individuals, but they found a few that would really get Ted's goat. So he ended up working with a lot of the same people. But Murray himself called vehement, sweeping, and personally abusive attacks. That was the goal for the anonymous individual to attack the study, in this case being Ted.
Well, and to be fair, Ted was prepared for this because he's been doing this his whole life.
Yeah, defending. Yeah, exactly.
He's like, bring it.
Yeah, I'm smarter than everybody in this room. Mm-hmm. So they hooked electrodes, monitored in the subject's psychological reactions. So I don't know what the is it to show that his brain is beep, 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 beep?
I don't know.
Yeah,
he's got tubes or wires or something coming off his brain.
He's got those little sticky pads.
It's like an ECG.
Yeah. Just to monitor how pissed he gets and when the vein officially pops out.
the vein on the center of your forehead.
You can see them check marking there 205 vein.
Vein pops out.
Vein initiated. So these encounters were actually filmed, and the subject's expression of anger and rage were later played back to them repeatedly. So not only are we going to humiliate you and embarrass you over this paper that we've had time to deconstruct, but we're going to show you what an idiot you look like on film, because everybody loves hearing their own voice.
Yeah, sounds like an intervention I did recently.
Yeah. Those are always a good time.
Yeah, that's fun.
I didn't get an invite.
Yeah.
So one of the members of this study would sit across from Ted for 3 years and just call him names and criticize his beliefs. And Ted, if you guys know anything about Ted Kaczynski, he had this fanatical belief in anti-technology.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what they spent most of their time doing, but how technology ultimately destroys human ethics. Ted later devotes a lot of his manifestos to this belief. I say manifestos. He had...
You can never have too many.
Yeah, he had books and books and books in the cabin of different ideas. But when I refer to the manifesto, it's the manifesto.
The one.
You know
the singular one. Well, and he's not wrong when we look at like AI, how AI is affecting like voting and stuff right now. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
He sounds like a genius.
Well, that's actually the next area that I was going to cover. Is it's not that his ideas or beliefs haven't panned out to be true.
Yeah,
in 2023,
he probably approached it in a different way than most people would have.
Yeah. Let's
just write a book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The funny thing was the Harvard study, his mom had to sign a permission slip because
he's 16.
Because he wasn't 18 yet.
He's a toddler.
So his mom, when she was later interviewed, she's a real soft-spoken lady. And, when you're the mom of a Unabomber, what are you going to...
Yeah, what are you going to do?
She was like, I don't think it was a good idea to put Teddy in that research group. But in fairness, I probably am guessing that on that permission slip, it didn't say psychologically break down and destroy your child.
Right. They're like, we're just going to run a test, and just record him and his reactions. That's all.
Yeah.
It's super innocent.
It's like the mouse with the maze.
Yeah,
He's going to love it. He'll make some friends.
Yeah, friends.
So this resulted in a lifetime of complex with Ted. It's not that he wouldn't have been as severe as he was, but it certainly didn't help.
Yeah, this sort of, you're pouring the gasoline right on top of a little kindling.
Yeah.
And now it explodes into something we don't want.
Exactly. So in 1962, Ted was arguing this, and to your point, it's sort of coming to fruition. But he was arguing that technology will eventually change how we talk, act, and think.
Yeah.
And in fairness, I think about that daily. Have you ever seen the movie Idiocracy?
Yeah.
It's the eventual dumbing down of humans.
Yeah.
I think about it daily.
We're halfway in here. Some kid just killed himself the other day because he was online with some other kid who was like, you should kill yourself. And so then he just did. They found him with a bullet hole. He shot himself in the head, and he had his gaming gear on his head still.
No way.
Yeah, 13. What the fuck?
Oh my gosh.
It's just, and that's the human interaction with the technology together.
Yeah.
Manipulating each other.
Yeah. When I think of Idiocracy, I always think of the hospital scene.
Yeah.
Where he hands them, this one goes in your mouth, this one goes up your butt. Wait, no, that's not right.
That's not right. What do you mean you don't have water?
Like out the toilet? I could go all day, but I watch it in my kids. My daughter, so I wrote some of my favorites. I like to send her like slang terms that they use to make her really uncomfortable.
Okay.
And I'll say it around her friends.
Can you say it now?
Yeah. Sup.
Sup.
You bussin'.
Bussin'.
And then bet.
Bet.
Do you know what that means?
No.
Bet's like, hey, are you coming over later? Bet.
Bet. Got it. Fire. That's fire.
I know that's fire. And I know you know this one. Bra.
Bra. There's bra, bro, bruh.
Bruh.
Bruh. Bruh is like our old dude. Hey, dude.
Yeah.
You call girls and boys dude.
Yeah, dude. I still use the term dude.
I still do too, but that's us because we're old.
Yeah. So your shirt is drip today, Jen.
Drip.
Yeah. And I don't know.
Well, then there's Riz. You've got Riz.
Or ratioed.
What does that mean?
Ratioed means, I don't know. I looked it up the other day. It means something. See, I don't know.
I'm going to Google it.
It doesn't even make any sense. So all that to say that
of course it doesn't make sense.
I feel like a lot
younger
of our
generations
slang,
do it on purpose so that the parents are confused.
Yeah, just like the texting has changed.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I don't know. I still just use a full-on sentence.
Yeah, me too. Just like the good old days. Just like I do at work, at my employment that pays me not to use the word bruh.
Dollars. At my work, we use the word bra all the time because I work at a gym.
Yeah. Well, mine does not use that very often, but Ted's mom eventually decided, it wasn't a great idea for Ted to be part of the study. Let's break down your socially awkward kid and see what makes him tick.
Wait, what's the word I'm looking up?
Ratioed. And it's not even spelled like it would be normally spelled. It's RATIO''D.
Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's hear it.
What does ratioed mean?
Put in ratio slang.
It means their tweets has more replies than likes and retweets. Another platform I don't give a fuck about, Twitter.
Yeah.
It's now called X, formerly known as Twitter.
Really?
Yeah, I don't care.
I don't care either.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, it's all...
No, because I don't care what your thought is.
No.
I don't want to be abruptly assaulted by your thought.
No, they're never good. So we're going to just sort of skim by Ted's early career and get into the good stuff. But Ted was on a path to really do well because minus the psychological experiments, he wasn't doing keggers or joining a fraternity.
He's just pouring hot water on his mom.
Yeah, just pouring that hot lava all over his mom and writing her horrible notes. But he eventually was destined for academia. That was his plan.
Yeah.
I guess that's what you do when you math well.
Yeah. I wouldn't know.
I wouldn't know either. So in 1967, Ted continued his studies in mathematics at the University of Michigan, earning a PhD, and then Ted took an assistant professor position at the University of California at Berkeley.
Oh, yeah, UC Berkeley.
UC Berkeley.
That's where the thinkers are.
Yeah, lots of smart people out there. So he should be in his element. But
with all the other weirdos.
yeah, exactly. Get them all in one room.
And pot and shit. It's amazing.
Ted,
Freedom.
Ted would have done pretty well with some pot, I think.
Yeah.
If he had
or
some
maybe
gummies.
some LSD.
I don't know if LSD would have been a good idea.
Yeah, he was kind of LSD'd out already. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes it sets you straight, right?
We should run some tests.
We should.
Yeah. Let's run a government test.
Yeah. Do you know where to get LSD?
I don't know how. I don't know where to get it.
I'll put one in my PTA chat.
Write in if you can send us some, and we'll take some on our when we're recording.
Oh, I'd love that.
Our producer is like, stop talking.
Jen doesn't even drink.
I drink water. I had a Monster.
Oh. Anyway, so Ted's disdain for technology really started to bubble over at Berkeley. And his coworkers were like, okay, this has gone from like we get it, you don't like technology, to now we can't invite you to the holiday Christmas party because you're just weird. He was like attacking his coworkers.
Oh, you can't do that.
No.
Unless you're in like a fraternity of wrestlers. And then you can.
Yeah. I'm not saying never attack people. I'm just saying when you're in academia, when you're in the math ward of a very prestigious university.
This is not what we do here.
I know. So the head of the mathematics department at Berkeley was pretty shocked when Ted up and quit. People have to fight for that position. And so he said, I really thought Ted was going to do...
Well, he's like, you guys won't let me bully anybody. Why do I get bullied, but I can't bully others?
Yeah.
This is bullshit.
People also started complaining about the way he smelled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he went to college when he was 16 and didn't have a girlfriend to tell him that.
But I imagine there were some stinky hippies at that time. So if he was the stinky one in class, imagine.
Yeah, that's no good.
Imagine how
you don't want to be the stinkiest.
Yeah, you don't want to be the stinkiest.
Yeah, you don't want that guy.
So Ted decided he was done with academics and he decided to just wander around from city to city.
Okay.
He had no plan.
Was he wearing Birkenstocks or like what was?
No, I imagine Ted had those like pretty heavy black nerd shoes on.
The heavy black. I was thinking those they're like the Nikes that with like they're like soft on the side.
Oh.
They're like you make a couch out of.
Oh, yeah.
Not quite velvet.
Yeah, I could see
Yeah.
that. It had to be something very outdoorsy because Ted really loved nature, which you don't see in a lot of nerds, right? Maybe that's not true.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Most of the time, nerds are like me. Like, they go out in the sun and they crisp up real quick.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and your eyes light on fire because your glasses are so thick.
It's so true.
It's like a laser.
I can see your insides. So we're moving away from Berkeley, and we're moving to Montana now.
Okay.
And this is where Ted's going to call home sweet home. So in 1971, Ted reconnected with his brother David, and they decided to purchase a plot of land in Lincoln, Montana.
Okay.
So they went on this camping trip, just the two of them, and they were going to go around and see where they wanted to buy land. But the goal was to live off the land. Now, Ted took this seriously.
Yeah.
Like he did everything. But David was like, look, by day 3, we had not caught anything. We had not hunted anything. And so I broke out an MRE, and David would not talk to him for a year. That's when the camping trip stopped. David flew home. Ted stayed there.
Ted broke out an MRE? David.
David's like, I hadn't eaten in 3 days. And Ted was so mad because I promised to live off the land. He thought he was cheating and he was giving up.
MREs are pretty disgusting. I would say that you're still probably living off the land.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're eating astronaut food.
But again, that's a normal person's brain.
Oh, right.
We're in Ted's brain today.
Okay, we're in Ted's brain.
So
I don't know what that looks like.
Oh,
Is that a cobweb? Oh my God, it's in my hair. Oh,
now I can't get it off my face.
Get it off.
Ted, when they were looking for land, his biggest prerequisite was he wanted something extremely remote and secluded and off the grid. So this area that they found was really beautiful, but some of the reasons why Ted finally called Lincoln, Montana home. So it's located in the Lewis and Clark County, just east of the Blackfoot River Valley. And for any of y'all who are familiar with Montana, because I'm not, but I'd like to be, Lincoln receives 85 inches of snow each year.
That's over my head.
7 feet of snow, actually.
Nope. I won't be going there.
Yeah.
But they have like little tiny towns that have like 27.5 people in them.
So I'm showing Jen pictures of the cabin, but it also has a picture of where Lincoln is. Or that's an aerial view of Ted's property. It's very green, lots of hills. They get a lot of snow. Rogers Pass, 18 miles northeast of Lincoln on Highway 200, is known to be the location of the coldest recorded temperatures in the United States outside of Alaska. So it gets cold as hell.
Yeah, again, a place I won't be moving to.
Just to give you an idea, on January 20th of 1954, a temperature of negative 70 Fahrenheit was recorded. Negatives. I had to research this, make sure I didn't read that incorrectly.
No, thanks.
Negative. So people who live there.
That's like if you sneeze, like the little beads, like they're just like stuck outside of your nose.
Turns into icicles.
And then fall, dink. Ding, 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 ding.
And then your eyeballs eventually freeze out and just roll out like whiskey ice.
This sounds awful.
Yeah.
Why do people live there?
They want to be alone. That's why.
Yeah. Well, nope.
Yeah. Yep. I'm
out.
I'm out as well.
Unless I'm like hiding from the government or something.
Well, now you just told him. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, Ted wanted to be alone. Most of the neighbors wanted to have property and they wanted to be alone, but they were part of the community. So the only time that people really saw Ted is he would walk.
When he ran out of MREs?
Yeah. When he was cheating. He walked from his place to the town's library. And that's the only person that really interacted with Ted other than the neighbors.
The librarian.
The librarian.
Like, oh boy, did I picked the wrong job.
I'm going to go work at the bar where we'll never, ever see him.
Yeah.
Even the people in Montana thought they called him the recluse.
Yeah.
One of his neighbors was out on their property, and I guess Ted had not put up his chain link fence denoting where their property ends and his starts. And she was...
And he had that shit measured out by the millimeter.
The inch, exactly. And so the daughter was walking on the property, and she ran into him. She was like, oh, she's like, he's just so like...
It's a Sasquatch.
Menacing, exactly. And he didn't apologize. It wasn't like, oh, I'm sorry to scare you. She's like, he just grunted at me and walked away.
The disappointing grunt.
Yeah. What people? Yeah. He probably hadn't seen anybody but the librarian in 3 years at that point. But the only people he came into contact with was those neighbors to the side, which he would politely grunt at, and then the librarian.
He's like, you look like you've been ratioed lately.
I can smell the technology on you.
Ew.
So Ted's property was, I mean, in comparison to what some of his neighbors had, it was somewhere around 1.4 acres, which he bought in 1958, 59 for $69,000.
So he bought it before he left Berkeley.
Yes, yeah. He bought it before him and his brother bought it together.
Interesting.
It actually went up for auction.
That's why he left Berkeley. He's like,
Screw
you know what?
this.
I got some land over here in Snowville.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I can smell however I want in Snowville.
And he could, and he did. But Ted built a tiny home before it was even trendy.
Yeah, it's more like a shack where you put your tools. Some people call them tools. Some people call them bombs.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does sort of look like a tool shed.
It just looks like something you throw back there to put just a few things in.
Yeah, this lawnmower broke a few years ago, but I can harvest it for parts. Let's put it in the shed.
It's got that springy thing. I like the springy thing.
So the trending tiny house was actually 10 by 12, 10 foot by 12. Your closet is probably 4 times that.
Yeah, like
size.
your bedroom is probably a 10 by 12 that we're sitting in right now.
Yeah, this was the whole cabin.
Yeah.
And he had.
It's not awful. I would live in that.
Do you want to describe
if I can get away from some people?
I know.
This isn't sounding like such a bad idea at this point.
Any moms out there silently kind of wishing about living in a cabin?
I kind of want to be Ted now.
I know. Well, we'll get to the next part and you won't. But these shelves are lining the inside of his cabin, and his cabin is just as disgusting as he is.
Well, so it's got like it's like a workbench with a lot of, it's like he threw dirt. It's like he threw paint at the wall and then dirt over the top of it, and that kind of stuck together.
Yeah.
And something is dripping down the front. Maybe it's a shadow. I don't know. There's a broken mirror. He probably broke it from looking at himself.
From being all upset.
There's a book. There's a box of Tide. I wish I could zoom in. I can't zoom in.
Look on your phone at what his cabin looked like on the inside. The pictures that I included there, the FBI really wanted the jury to get a good idea of what this cabin looked like so that they could understand Ted's experience. So
experience.
Yeah, Ted's experience in the woods, because everybody saw there's not a place that you could move the trial that doesn't know about the Unabomber, because his crime spanned over 2 decades. And so when they pulled him out of that cabin looking and smelling like Sasquatch, not a lot of people got to see what was going on in the inside of the cabin.
But once you see someone's house, you can kind of see what's going on in their head.
That is 100% correct.
Yeah.
Ted's cabin
you
was
like
a
dogs.
Yeah. That's why I always leave you with some presents.
I do. I always do. I get home and my dogs are like, "Girl, where you been?"
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "It was Butler. He was rubbing his face on my foot."
Yeah, the pug leaves smudges. The other dogs leave hair.
Just bark.
Yeah. Most of Ted's time in his little cabin, it was like the best time of his life, he said. It was spent, other than making bombs, it was spent reading books from the local library, composting, and composing his early manuscript of what would later be known as the Unabomber Manifesto.
I do appreciate that he was composting.
Yeah. Well, you've got to, right?
I mean, he's trying to minimize his footprint.
Yeah.
He's doing good things.
Yeah. I mean, I would say his footprint is 0.
Yeah. I would. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, the smell, I don't know if that kind of generates some kind of toxic waste.
Could you imagine being the FBI pulling him out
No.
of the cabin? So in 1978, Kaczynski moved. He left Montana because he had run out of money. And so he moved to Chicago, so back home, and he took a job at his brother's factory. He wanted to earn enough money to where he could pay for some of the things like metal or I don't know, shrapnel, stuff like that. He wasn't making on his own.
Do you think this will stick in somebody's eye?
Yeah, why do you ask, Home Depot man?
What if it's at a good velocity?
So he was there for, that's when the first package actually went out, was when he was in Chicago. The package had already been sent out. But meanwhile, he's working at his brother's factory, and he had to fire Ted.
Oh.
You want to guess why?
Because he smelled funny?
Well, that was one of the reasons. But he also harassed a female factory supervisor. And even back in 1978, that was frowned upon.
What? I get harassed all the time. What are you talking about? That shit's not gone.
Yeah.
What was he harassing her about? Do we know?
I guess he'd asked her on a date. She either went on the date and said, no, you stink.
No.
Or she's like, no, I can't.
Sorry, bro.
Yeah. So
you
he
peaked at 16.
Yeah. And it goes back a little further, I think, his distaste for women.
Yeah.
They talk about it a lot when you research Ted Kaczynski. But so he was harassing her, like waiting for her out in the parking lot after work. So David had to let him go because it was his factory.
Yeah. Well, I wonder what his deal was with women because his mom seemed nice enough.
Yeah. I have no idea.
But you just don't know what's going on inside like a sociopath or psychopath's brain.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Unless you talk to him for like 87 hours and he's already dead. So I don't think we can do that.
You can read his manifesto, but I wasn't going to.
Yeah, I would.
But,
Some light reading.
Yeah. Just, when you've got
Probably
some
like
time.
math equations in there.
Ugh.
Well, I was just looking at a picture of his cabin, and I love that he wanted to live off the land, yet on a shelf is a bag of sugar and Quaker oats. You, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, you did not grow those oats.
And harvest those oats. If I see the Quaker man.
That is processed sugar, sir.
Keep in mind, he did not talk to his brother for over a year for eating an MRE, and he's got the Quaker Oats man on his counter.
He put his foot down.
Yeah. He's got to stand for something or you fall for anything.
Anything.
I feel like there's a song about that.
Something. I think there was like 2.
Ted was actually mad at David for having to fire him over this bullshit policy of not harassing your coworkers. So,
it is kind of bullshit. I'd like to harass some people at work too.
Yeah. I had just finished a 14-hour harassment training from work.
Oh, that sounds amazing. You didn't invite me?
I feel like I felt like as a woman, I'm going to take the test at the end and be just fine. Like, what do you feel is harassing? I failed most of the questions. I had to take it twice.
You don't know what is harassing?
Well,
but you probably get harassed all the time.
I do, but there's different definitions.
Like pick the best answer.
Yeah, that's subjective.
It's
Which
very
one's
subjective.
worse?
Have you been raped before?
Has somebody grabbed your boob and then called you a bad name? Which is worse?
Ugh,
I failed.
I can't.
Yeah. So Ted
I told you about the psychiatrist that I was seeing from the VA.
No.
She's like, "Have you ever been sexually harassed?" And I'm like, "Who hasn't been sexually harassed?
Yeah.
Why is that your question?
Is this your first day on the job?
You should really start with how many times were you sexually harassed?
Yeah, is there one that sticks out more than the other?
Because no one's ever at 0.
Yeah. We
back to Ted.
Yeah, back to Ted. So Ted moved back to Montana. He was done with having to worry about sexual harassment trainings.
He's like, I'll just harass myself by myself with my book by myself.
I bet there is a lot of self-harassment in that cabin.
Well, there's a broken mirror.
Yeah, break out that black light.
Yeah.
So between 1978 and 1995, we're beginning the bombing phases.
That's a long time to be thinking.
It's a very long...
To be by yourself.
And to not be apprehended, too.
Well, it was the
80s of it all.
Yeah.
Ted mailed or hand-delivered a series of increasingly sophisticated bombs that cumulatively killed 3 people and injured 23. Now, there was one that could have taken down a whole airliner, and we'll talk about that, but 16 bombs in total were attributed to Ted.
16 bombs.
16. Ted mailed his first one. He mailed the bomb, and it was directed at Buckley Christ, a professor of materials engineering at Northwestern University. See, I'm so dumb, I don't even know what that is. Materials engineering. Like putting shit together.
You're engineering materials.
Yeah. Okay. So on May 25th, 1978, a package bearing Chris' return address was found in the parking lot. So it was just sitting around all willy-nilly. And the package,
where else are you going to put a bomb? Like in his office? How does he have access? I don't know.
If he mailed... So Ted must have hand-delivered that, but it looked like it was mailed because it had Chris' return address on it. So the package was returned to Chris because back then people would do that.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I know that guy. I'm going to take it back to him. But the professor...
Sounds like something good in there.
Yeah.
Is that a box of Legos?
It's a little jingly in there.
It's not a pony.
No, it wasn't a pony. He was very suspicious, the professor was, because he realized his return address was on there, but he had not sent it.
He's like, I'm not insane.
Yeah.
So
he was actually very smart. He contacted the campus police, and Officer Ted Marker opened the package.
Oh.
Which exploded and caused minor injuries. So this was first bomb.
Yeah,
first...
this is why we have bomb squads.
Yeah.
That wear equipment over their face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I could not even imagine the stress of that job.
No, that's a job I'll never do.
No.
Yeah.
Or a bomb diffuser.
No. Nah. Never going to do that.
Red or blue? Red or blue?
Which one?
So I've included a full timeline of Ted's bombings, but we're not going to go through all 16. We can add it on the Insta page. I say we because Jenn does that.
Oh, do we have an Insta page?
Or you can just Google it on your own. There's plenty of
this
them.
This is a DIY podcast.
DIY episode.
Yeah.
So
it depends on what our supervising adult wants us to do.
Yeah. Will you let us put a time? Oh yeah, never mind. In 1979, a bomb was placed in the cargo hold of an American airline flight. You remember hearing about this? Yeah, it was Flight 444.
What year was it?
1979, the year I was born.
Oh, I was 4.
I made the last month of 1979.
Yeah.
It was a good year. But a Boeing 727, which holds, I mean, it's not one of the planes you take to Europe, but if you're flying from Texas to Chicago, it's a 747 or 727.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the flight was actually going from Chicago to Washington, and a faulty timing mechanism prevented the bomb from exploding. But what it did is it started releasing smoke, and that's what caused the pilots to decide to do the emergency landing.
Oh, they're like, something's on fire.
Yeah, something smells like, fire.
We don't have batteries yet.
Yeah.
What is that?
So authorities said that it had enough power to obliterate the plane had it exploded.
Yeah, because all you need is one solid thing going, one thing to separate and sever the hydraulic lines.
Yeah.
And you're done. You're done. That's it.
Yeah. Ted actually used a barometer triggered device.
A barometer.
That's what I said, a barometer.
A barometer.
Barometer, I went to...
That's the altitude.
I went to Harvard.
On the highway.
Yeah. Night class.
Community college, Harvard.
It succeeded only in setting some mail bags on fire and forcing the emergency landing. So,
yeah, no wonder the mailman is pissed.
Yeah.
He's like, do you know how hard I worked to get that shit on the plane in the first place?
He's like, this is a bunch of bullshit. Hey, how many bags are we going to have to pay for now?
This is Christmas.
Yeah.
This is Christmas packages.
Grammy's going to need to know where that hand-knitted sweater is. What are we going to tell her?
Huh? What are we going to tell her, Teddy?
Ted.
Huh?
In later years, Ted wrote a letter that expressed his relief that the airline bomb had failed since its targets were too indiscriminate.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So he
was so glad that one didn't go off because I was planning on hitting this one specific person, but it missed.
Yeah, I really didn't think that one out, even though it was on an airline.
Yeah. I thought it would do like when you do abs where you can like spot target, like just get the fat off of your abs by doing abs. I don't think that's right though.
C16 is that not directly where it was placed?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So that's why he was mad, is because he, as crazy as Ted was, and I keep using that term crazy, but as disturbed as Ted was, he was really trying to prove a point. That
he was trying really hard.
Yeah, for a long time.
He was trying.
So instead,
like when toddlers try to walk their milk across the room. I try, Mama.
Or when your 8-year-old tries to pee in the toilet.
Yeah. I try, Mama.
I do good. I do it myself.
I do it myself.
So Ted did do it himself. He sent the next bomb to the president of United Airlines, Percy Wood. And Wood was home and received cuts and burns all over his body. So at this point, from 1978 to 1980, Ted was really trying to prove a point. He was targeting a certain class of people: engineers, technology professors, executives, scientists.
But they don't know at this point who Ted is.
Exactly. Nobody knows who Ted is. And quite frankly, they weren't even seeing a commonality at that point yet, because it wasn't like all the professors in this one department at this one college. It went from...
It really was random. It was on an airplane. Yeah. It was in the mail. It was this other guy. Like what?
And it was being dropped from different points. So even though there was no... Like, there wasn't a return address on Ted's bombs, but they were being mailed out.
That would be entertaining if you did that.
AKA, I'm in Montana in a little cabin.
Ted at cabin 6.
Yeah. So in 1981, a package bearing a return address of a Brigham Young University professor of electrical engineering, Leroy Wood Burnson, was discovered in the hallway of the university, and it was brought to the campus police. So by now, you're starting to hear that enough professors have been targeted. So
yeah, you should have gave me that A, Prof.
That's right.
Should have gave me that A.
So he actually calls out the bomb squad.
Oh, so good. That's a good idea.
Yeah, that one was diffused. No one got hurt in the Brigham Young.
They're
bombing.
Like, this one sounds a little ticky. I don't know.
Tick, tick, boom. So the following year was sent to Patrick C. Fisher, a professor of computer science at Vanderbilt. This is the one where Fisher's secretary was the one that opened it. Oh. And her name was Janet Smith. And Janet Smith received injuries to her face and her arms.
You know, she was probably sexually harassed that morning.
Oh, I'm sure she was.
And then she gets a bomb in her face.
Yeah, typical Friday.
But she lived.
She lived. Okay. Yeah, only 3 people died from the bombs.
Okay.
I say only, like that's not horrible enough, but most of them were lifelong injuries.
Yeah.
And it was that he targeted a few more at UC Berkeley, but Ted would go on to create and mail bombs from 1979 to 1987. And then there was almost this 6-year break.
Yeah, he got salmonella poisoning.
Must have been some bad deer meat or whatever he's eating.
He's like, maybe I should grow plants in my acreage that I have here instead of killing people.
Maybe that oatmeal's gone bad. Huh. Or maybe the crap under my 10-inch long fingernails.
Ugh.
Yeah. So
like he's Howard Hughes or something.
It was worse than that. Oh, it was so bad. So no bombs, no clues, just radio silence from 87 to 93. And this just made it harder for the FBI to figure out what was going on. So where's Teddy? And how did the FBI finally track him down?
Well, I know the answer, but I want you to tell us.
Okay. Well, weigh in when we get to that. But this part's really interesting to me, and I know your brain works the same way. So why was Ted so hard to apprehend? The search of the Unabomber stands as one of the longest-running manhunts in U.S. history. They had over 150 full-time investigators, analysts, and other agencies from the FBI, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco and Firearm, ATF, that makes sense, and then the U.S. Postal Inspection. And though they had conducted all these extensive forensic examinations of the bomb, there were no clues, no fingerprints, no hair, nothing connecting anybody to anything. So they just
Which is weird because his cabin was dirty AF.
And his nails.
Ugh.
I know.
I don't know how. Maybe he wore gloves.
He also typed it out on a typewriter. So once he started, the old typewriter. Remember when we used to just be able to clip out magazine letters and
that was fun.
Mail our harassing notes that way.
I liked those times.
Yeah, I miss those days.
All the letters are different sizes and shapes.
This is from Teen Vogue. So this is what they knew at this point. The bomber made his own explosives from common scrap metal materials, including wood and fishing wire, nails, tape, but they were widely available. So they were hunting down like nail from Ace Hardware. Everybody has nails from Ace Hardware. They also took great care not to leave any identifying traces behind. So they avoided commercial glue, things that like as the bombs became more sophisticated, he couldn't just glue stick it. He had to he went out and made his own glue from deer hooves.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do that?
That's what you do.
Yeah, that's what Ted
That's what
does.
they were talking. That's what Hubs was talking about. Your Hubs was talking about this morning. Or when I asked you what the present was, and I asked you if it was a pony, and he said it used to be, but now it's glue.
That was a good joke.
It was a good joke.
Jen and I always talk about how much funnier we are than our husbands.
Well, we are.
And
but he made a good joke. But I told him that's the last one for the year.
Look who's got yolks all of a sudden. So he's
going to tell that one 6 times today.
And explain to you why it's funny.
Yeah.
That always makes it great. So they knew that the bomber was methodical. The former FBI agent and ABC News anchor contributed by Brad Garrett. He said that they weren't leaving any DNA on this. So DNA was in place. They were running all these tests, but they couldn't find anything. And Ted even tried to mislead investigators by writing initials that had no connections to himself on the bomb. So I think it was FB, which then it sends him on this rabbit hole of...
Who's FB?
Yeah. And
it's like BTK. I'm going to tell you what to call me. We should just call you douchebag.
That's it. If you give yourself a nickname, you're automatically a douchebag.
Automatically.
You've got to be assigned a nickname. Even if you hate it, you got to own it.
Own it. Yeah. It's just like in the military. We get a call sign. That's what it is.
What was yours?
Dirty.
Dirty. I love that. My cousins used to call me Ziggy Piggy, but I don't want to talk about that.
Okay.
So.
I understand Ziggy.
Oh,
you're going down.
Yeah, thanks.
Now we all know.
Yeah. This is when the FBI sort of threw up their hands and said, bring in the woo-woo. Now is the time to bring in all the crazies. Let's get the psychics walking
We need a psychic with a crystal ball.
Yeah. So that's when James F. Fitzgerald. Oh, no, that's a writer. James R. Fitzgerald. See, I read. Now retired FBI special agent was just the man for the job.
All right.
So
he's got Esmeralda, the witch, over here on the right, and
with her crystal ball and tea leaves. And then we've got the Mr. Fitzgerald, who is actually trained as an FBI agent studying forensic profiling.
Forensic woo-wooing.
Woo-woo. I'm a master in woo. Fitzgerald spent a lot of his early career in law enforcement, and he was looking for a change, and that's when the FBI came and said, hey, we've got this new division. We'd love for you to, get involved.
We need some ideas because we're all out.
Yeah, we're done. We've been on this for a while. What Fitzgerald did that was so different, because they were starting to put together profiles, but a lot of their early profiles on the Unabomber were incorrect. And so What eventually broke the case was what they call forensic linguistics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like how a person talks. Like if I send you a text and you know how I communicate on text.
Yeah. Full sentences.
And then somebody else sends, or you get another text and you're like, this sounds weird.
I know you've been kidnapped.
You're like, she's been kidnapped. Call 911.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, or they'll bring her back in a bit. But
yeah, because I'll start screaming. You're going to tell so many bad jokes.
Yeah, it's your internal monologue. Everything that you write down, you'll see Southern writers use y'all, or we'll say cul-de-sac instead of
roundabout.
Roundabouts, yeah. Exactly. So that's forensic linguistics.
Like, Jenn used roundabout. She never does that. She's been kidnapped.
Every once in a while, the hubs will say a word because he was born in Germany, lived in Vermont for the first few years, and then got his ass to Texas.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
That's making a lot of sense now.
But he'll say au gratin potatoes.
Oh.
And I hear it, I'm like, hey.
Stop. Not how you say it. Well, my hubs was like, hey, yeah, you go there, and then I'll come and spell you. And I'm like, spell me? What does that mean?
My name?
Spell, what? He's like, yeah, when you spell someone for a bit. No, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know.
I don't think that's
like when you rock the baby and then you do it for 30 minutes and then your partner spells you and then they do it for 30 minutes. I'm like,
for a spell? Like I sat there for a spell that
like,
he turned into a verb?
I'm dumber right now. It's just so much dumber. I'm going to spell you. I'm like, don't spell me.
I spell you.
I spell you.
You don't know my life.
In Ted's case, I smell you.
I would love to hear some of those weird, my family's got tons of them. Those weird things that people say that's not.
But you're just like, that's not even a word.
That's
like
not...
earlier when you said, got my goat. Where does that even come from?
I'm getting a goat one day and I'll let you know.
We're going to have a goat farm.
Yes, I can't wait.
Yeah. Anyway, back to Ted.
In the 1990s, we're going back to the linguistics. The Unabomber began sending letters about his crimes to the media and to his victims.
Yeah, he's like, you idiots are out there. You can't even figure out who I am. I'm just going to tell you.
I rested for 6 years. Now I'm back at it, and you still have no clue.
There I was on my laurels.
Yeah. Well, on my laurels. I mean, I know what that means, but can you be on them?
Do you rest on your laurels?
I'm resting on my laurels right now.
Oh, my laurels need some work.
Ted sent a sprawling 35,000-word manifesto.
That's a lot.
Yeah, he sent it out to a few media sources, but the New York Times and the Washington Post had this ethical dilemma at this point. Do we publish and potentially somebody sees it, they recognize the writing, or are we perpetrating more murders?
Right. Because you can always have like what are they when you do it the second?
Oh, a copycat.
Copycat, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I was like, it's something with a cat. What is it?
Cat tail. Him and his colleagues were using this. And Fitzgerald was like, I understand this is going to be an ethical decision, but the Washington Post eventually said, all right, we'll do it. And so they published, and Fitzgerald thought that it was a good idea. He's like, we started looking at the profile, and even he had a professor of linguistics help him. One of the common mistakes that they had in the original profile was this person was a lot younger because they were targeting university professors.
So, for a bad grade or whatever.
It's a disgruntled student. So he said just the way he talked, it was sort of that old Chicago verbiage.
Yeah.
Verbiage.
He's an old man.
Yeah, so he's older than what we thought. But some of the parts in the last few decades, linguistic profiling has really become useful in law enforcement to narrow down some of their cases. And this is ultimately how Ted gets caught. But they call them tells or clues.
Yeah. So
just like we talked about before, some of the things that Fitzgerald said is, I want to devote my time and energy looking at the language in this case, and let's see what the heck we can make out of it. But I was looking at this thing and reading it 2 or 3 or 4 times, It's very dense, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So he like
read 35,000 words like 3 times.
5, 6, 7 times. Yeah,
you gotta be real patient.
And like that tyrannical, like angry writing too.
And it's hard. And I'm sure he's like, I disagree with a significant amount of this text. Like it's hard to just look at the words by individually rather than like listen to the whole ranting and raving of it.
Yeah.
But you're just like, wow, I do not agree.
But that's what the linguistics really honed down. He's like, we were able to start picking across some of the commonalities.
Yeah.
So antiquated terms like broad and chick to denote women. Those are awesome.
They don't like to be, those broads don't like to be harassed.
Yeah, it's such a chick move.
Man, times are changing.
Bet. He also used the word Negro to describe African American or black people.
Yeah, that's an old term.
Yeah, it's very. It helped him to correct the FBI's original age guess.
Yeah,
and
they're like, thanks, bruh.
Thanks. Wait, sus? That's all I got. Those are all the ones I know. Using the manifesto and their study of the word and sentence structure, the Unabomber used strange misspellings for words too. So where somebody would
he was
write,
like trying to use misspellings on purpose.
I guess, but they were like done over and over. So when he wrote clue, C-L-U-E, he spelled it C-L-E-W. Which, I don't know, the linguistics specialist Shu recognizes that some of the spelling reforms that championed in the Chicago Tribune. So, like, they were spelling clue, C-L-E-W, until they had a get-together in Chicago in the 1940s. They're like, that's stupid. We're going to add a U and an E and some other
That's so weird. So the spelling of the word
changed. Yeah. So if you grew up in Chicago, you would have spelled it one way, but now everybody
so it's identifying where he grew up now.
So now they know where
it's like y'all
up.
And all y'all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The use guys,
all y'all's.
The Utes.
Yeah, the Utes. The Unabomber also referred to rearing children as opposed to raising children.
Yeah, you got to rear them.
Yeah.
Right in the rear.
I guess that's a northern thing.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. So a lot of this pointed to the fact that he grew up in the Windy City. The Unabomber investigation had justifiably, when they looked at the case once it was all over, these were the heroes of the case. They were able to pick apart some of these things, really leading them into what kind of person we're looking for. But Ted's not on the internet. Ted has no digital footprint.
Yeah.
So they're still leaning.
The Earth is barely on the internet.
Yeah.
Because this is like the early 90s, right? We didn't even have email until like 1995 or something.
Oh, yeah. I guess it was the You've Got Mail.
Yeah, it was the You've Got Mail.
Remember
and
yeah.
Oh, Lord. We were just escaping Pong. I mean, that's where we were.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the 90s.
Yeah, Pac-Man, Atari, Pong, email,
and
AOL.
These are not handwritten letters either. So
He's typing them out on a typewriter. What if you make a mistake?
Clue. Gives you a clue. C-L-E-W. So their big break came in 1995 when they decided that, okay, we're going to put this manifesto. The Washington Post is going to publish it. And they tried to publish it everywhere, but other publications, they went to America's Most Wanted, Nightline. They ran an ad.
Nightline.
Yeah, they ran an ad in Playboy.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
every dude in America's reading that.
So they're like, maybe they'll give it a little look-see to see if this reminds them of anybody. And the FBI ultimately supported the Washington Post publishing it. But what happened is back in Chicago, David Kaczynski's sitting at home with his wife, Linda. And Linda was the sister-in-law, the only sister-in-law. Ted had met her when they were first getting married, when David and her were first getting married. Ted got so mad at David for, breaking the man down and joining the establishment of marriage. And in the 70s, Linda kept her maiden name. So she's not
get it, girl.
Barefoot and pregnant woman. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
And here she is reading a porn magazine.
She's looking at her Playboy.
I was reading Playboy this afternoon, and turns out,
yeah, but she's the only one in the whole family that pinpointed that Ted had some issues.
Yeah, she's got some brains in her.
But you love somebody, but she's like, you understand Ted has some mental issues, don't you?
I was looking at him and I was looking at his fingernails, and I was thinking, those are some dirty fingernails.
And David's like, I don't understand.
I don't see it.
I don't get
Which
it.
nail?
Ted's mad at David at this point. He's mailing out bombs. He's mad at David for getting married.
Yeah.
And so he starts writing David these scathing 23 front and back letters about all these things that he's done wrong and technology. So Linda gets the idea.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm going to pull some of those out because David's got them locked up in his memory box of his brother.
Yeah.
And
he's got his rose-colored glasses on.
You got it.
He can't read that font from that typewriter.
She starts putting it two and two together.
Were the letters that went to David typewritten?
Yes.
How do you do that on front and back? That's some thick paper. You got to have like that big, thick paper.
I was joking about the front and back, but I don't know.
Huh.
Some of my notes are front and back. So David, he said, I was just trying to pass fire at the beginning. She's like, this is starting to look a lot like your brother's writing. David's like, no, there's no way. Ted's not
so
violent.
Good. He's still 16 in my mind.
Yeah. So he's like, I agreed to read through it to sort of be like, well, that's not Ted. So, then he started reading through it and he's like, oh my gosh.
Oh no.
Oh geez.
Oh, we got a bag of bagels here. Oh.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
They're a little nutty. So the family eventually came to it. It really tore David up to go to the FBI and say, okay,
nobody wants to roll over on their brother.
Yeah. The FBI finally,
especially this.
Yes.
It's awful.
And their life was going to be a shit show because now you're always the Kaczynski brother.
Because he's not changing his name.
Yeah.
Well, she never did, so she's free. She's free out there, but
still doesn't keep people from stalking your house. The press at the
Are
very
you a
least.
murderer too?
Yeah.
Did you send him the nails?
What did you do to cause this?
Why is this your fault?
And his name is on the land deed.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's deep into this, but he started
those Kaczynski brothers.
Kaczynskis, they're the worst. If it wasn't for their all A's. But they, he said, I felt so awful about turning in Teddy, as he called him. He made the FBI promise that they would not ever tell Ted who it was that brought it to their attention about his writing. So what do? They start planning the evacuation of Ted from his cabin.
Yeah.
And they promptly tell him exactly how they caught him. So years later, during the trial, David and Linda went to a lot of the trial hearings, and he's like, he wouldn't even look me in the eye. But they saved a bunch of...
forget about that I sent bombs to people and killed some people and almost killed 16 others, but I'm mad at you because you told.
Yeah. Ted doesn't have a really strong history of getting mad at, rational things.
Yeah.
So he's always mad at David, who seems like the nicest brother ever.
Was the only one that liked him.
Yeah.
Well, if you'd only liked him longer.
If they only liked him harder, right?
You gotta love him until they're lovable.
Yeah. Teddy made it hard. But the other hard part about the capture is the timing of the capture, right? So we're coming off of Waco, which was a shit show for the
Total
ATF.
shit show, yeah.
Ruby Ridge,
yeah,
which was another huge shit show.
It was huge.
It was huge. So the FBI had to get this right. So what they did was a few days before, they went up to Ted's neighbor's house, and they're like, hey, you've been living Most likely next to the Unabomber. And
they're like, what?
the neighbors are like, yeah, that checks out. That actually makes a lot of sense. So the neighbors agreed to help the FBI they wanted to get surveillance on his property, but Ted's such a nutcase that if there were helicopters and stuff flying over, he would freak out.
Yeah.
So the neighbor introduced the FBI agents as land surveyors to Ted.
Nice.
So they got a lay of the land, and they didn't want this to be a shootout. But Sasquatch is walking around crazy as a box of Teddy Grahams.
Yeah.
And they don't know how dangerous or not dangerous this is going to be. So they're preparing for the worst, hoping for the best.
Yeah.
April 3rd comes, and it really goes off without any hitch. They walk up, and they're like, hey, we're back to survey your land. Please come out of your cabin. And they arrest him.
Just like that.
Yeah. They walk his stinky ass out of the cabin.
Can you imagine what that smelled like?
I could not. And
the bed smells like it, and then and then it's the bed human smell. It's just like a teenager.
Oh, it from the pictures, it just. But for him not to leave any trace on a bomb, but live like
he had to have like
Howard Hughes. I don't know.
How do you do that?
They said that he was so meticulous, and that a lot of like the bombs became more and more sophisticated.
Yeah.
But they found over 400,000 books that he had started writing in.
400,000 books.
Yeah.
Well, he only started writing them.
A lot of them. I mean, he was up in that cabin by himself. He had a lot of time.
He was there for a lot of years.
Yeah. So they
and he wasn't showering, so that cut off some time.
Yeah. And yeah, there's no heat, no electricity, no running water. So he had plenty of time. So he just sat there and made bombs, and they filled trailers full of evidence out. And this team of 150 people that were devoted to this full time went from a full team of 150 to, God knows how many. So they found their guy, but now they've got to go through all the evidence. And one of the big key pieces to them connecting him, because up till this point, it's just like his writing looks a lot like this manifesto.
Yeah.
They find that Ted kept a diary.
Oh, good.
What do we say? If you're going to murder people, don't keep a diary.
You might as well just put it on the internet. Why don't you just use your search history from the library, stupid?
Barbara down at the library would be happy to get his stinky butt out of there.
Esmeralda saw this from a mile away, okay?
So the federal grand jury ended up indicting Ted in June of 1996 on 10 counts of illegally transporting, mailing, and using bombs. And the funny part was, and we're not going to spend any time really talking about the case itself, because it was, there wasn't a lot to be said, but Ted ended up firing his lawyers that he was assigned at the beginning because they wanted to try it as an insanity plea.
And he's like, I'm not insane.
Yeah. He didn't want
Look at me. I'm totally sane.
I've just stepped out of the woods and I've got my eyebrows growing over my face, but never mind that.
What?
When they get I imagine the Geico caveman.
No, I'm saying what would make him think that this is not a great plan? He
didn't care whether he evaded the death penalty. He wanted people to know that he was smarter than them, and this was intentional. He didn't want his point to be rubbed out by the fact that everybody was calling him crazy.
Right. Because only crazy people do stupid stuff. Smart people also do stupid stuff, and that's me. Yeah. I'm in that category.
I think he's actually looped back. You start at where we are, and maybe we're middle of smart, but he's so smart that he's looped back around to dumb. So the common sense stuff, like save your own life or cover your ass, those things don't matter because he wants to prove a point.
That he's right.
That he's right, exactly. Another fun fact is that Ted began serving his 8 life sentences without the possibility of parole at a supermax prison in Florence, Colorado, where he made his first 2 friends.
Oh, that's nice.
You want to guess who they are?
Who is it?
They are the Oklahoma City bomber
Oh,
and the World Trade Center bomber.
that's so sweet.
So Timothy
They're
McVeigh,
together.
yeah.
Do they do like arts and crafts?
They do. Ramsey Yusuf,
Uh-huh.
and then Timothy McVeigh.
Yeah, old Timmy.
Yeah,
Timmy and Teddy and Yusuf.
they would
Oh.
do the arts and crafts, but they couldn't give him scissors or glue
Yeah.
because, they might make a
Well,
bomb.
he knows how to make his own glue. He just needs a horse.
Or toenails that he can ground up. They're really creative.
Do they clip your nails at jail? I have questions. Have you been in prison? Right in.
I would think they would have to clip your nails, or
It's a
otherwise,
hazard.
start using them as weapons.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like how you went straight for the eye.
That's
It's a shiv. It turns into a shiv.
Yeah, well, when you're little and we're pocket size,
Yeah, so the fish hook. That's what I'm all about.
that's pretty impressive. That's like a calling card move.
Well, it's I learned it from my brother because he was taller than me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I could like punch him in the nuts and then grab the fish hook while he was like falling. Oh yeah.
My move was I would sit on top of my brother and pound him, and he would say, "I can't breathe. I can't breathe." And
You're like, that's the point.
yeah, well, if you're screaming, you're breathing.
You're breathing.
Yeah, so shut it. So he made best friends with Timothy McVeigh, and they were sitting around discussing religion and politics. And then on June 10th at 12:23 a.m., Ted was found in his cell unresponsive. So he's taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. Now, there's some controversy. Prison officials believe his death was a suicide.
He's
But
too smart for that.
they also showed late stages of cancer, so who knows? Who cares?
Yeah, when you don't bathe, you grow stuff.
Yeah.
Plus, he was eating all that oatmeal.
Could have blocked up his
It
bowels.
was probably colon cancer.
So that was our
That's
story. It's
Now he's dead.
yeah. Now
What a
he's
waste.
dead. Now that I think about it, I don't know why I've spent so many hours researching it, but it just interests me. Like the whole the FBI having to learn how to reprofile people, looking into the linguistics of how he writes, and Ted's
Well,
a
but
dirty
like,
schmeedy.
who is it? Who's sending these? It's so random.
Yeah.
And I think now that's just shows you that everybody's the same.
Well, that's our show today. I can't wait for next week. What you got, Jen?
Next week? You mean next month?
That's what I said.
That's what you said.
It's Christmas and
Yeah, I don't know.
everything's starting to blend together. Y'all know that time of year.
That's right. I hope you guys had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. This has been a Clear Right production.